Why won't esports people ever listen to people with half a brain? I don't know. Like, put it this way, I am sick of the esports community and the gaming community in general getting got by the same trick every time, which is whenever a politician is looking for a bump in the polls, or whenever a politician needs to be current, or just before an election, a politician will wander into a space that they have either largely ignored or a lot of the time actively condemned, but they'll come in and then everyone goes, oh wow, look, it's so important that the politician's here. Fuck politicians. Fuck the political class, right? Like you've got to get into your head. It doesn't matter what flavor they are. They believe they own you. They believe they're better than you. It doesn't matter. Oh, but they're a Democrat and the Republicans are evil. They're gonna fuck you in the exact same way. Red tie, blue tie. It doesn't matter. Same thing in England. Oh, you can't vote Tory. Yeah, you're right. I can't vote Tory. But I can't vote for Keir Starmer. He's establishment. He's the same dickhead. They drink in the same bar. They share cocktails. What comes with the job of being a politician is you have to be a liar and a hypocrite. You have to be flexible. You have to be nebulous. You have to have no form whatsoever. You know, like a fucking octopus can fit itself in anything and squeeze under any crack in the door. That's a politician. You never know which way the wind's going to blow. And so you should never trust them. It comes with the job. They have to lie. So I remember, I talked about this before, this phenomenon. It was when AOC, God bless her soul, time-traveling AOC, it was when she came and she hit up all the influencers, all the lefty influencers, and she said, I love gamers, me. Let's play Among Us. And they rigged it, by the way, so she won, right? Which was, people largely forget that detail. That's how pathetic it was. I mean, the irony of an American politician playing a game where to win, you have to be completely fake and good at deceiving people. That shouldn't be lost on anyone. But anyway, they basically rigged it so she stayed in the game for longer because that was the whole point. And all the while they were going, this isn't really about promoting politics or promoting political party, but it's just to tell you about the importance of voting. Democrat. Everyone should vote. People have died for your right to vote. Democrat. And so, you everybody lost their shit. She just like me, for real. She just like me. She changed real quick, you noticed. I remember her campaign. I thought she was quite endearing. I was like, oh, look, a bartender from Queens. And she beat an incumbent with a grassroots campaign just by being genuinely endearing and engaged with the local community. I can fuck with that. I don't care what party you are, right? But unfortunately, you get in there and within, a year, it's free tickets to the fucking Met Gala while not failing to see the irony of wearing a highly expensive tax the rich dress, saying you've got to make statements on the largest platform. It's ethics violations that, aren't going to get anything done about because to be a politician is an ethics violation. So I pointed all this out in a video. Right? And 2,000 YouTube subs gone overnight. Gone. Just wiped out. Massively downvoted video. Loads of comments. Because what you seem to forget is that up until the election, gamers, if you remember, what were gamers? Oh yeah. We were radicalized, Russian bot, Trump supporting racist, sexist trolls. That's what we were. That's what the average gamer is. And so, fine, if that's what you think. But then the election comes rolling around, and it's like, we really need to get in touch with the gamers. Hey, everyone. Hey, guys. No, of course. Yeah, it's super important to vote, isn't it? Racist trolls, isn't it? Yeah, it's super important to vote. You don't need your Putin money, do you? Free democracy, vote for it. It was pathetic. And then within moments of the election being over, you were all scum again, weren't you? And you're all scratching your head. How does this keep happening? So, that's for the American friends. There's a little lesson there. And it'll happen again, by the way. Oh, you remember how Joe Biden said he was going to cancel your student debt before the midterms? How's that working out for you? Maybe stop getting played, dickheads. Because if you say to them, I will vote for you no matter what, they never need to give you anything ever again, you silly cunts. You have the vote, that is it. That's the most power you're ever going to have in your life. You're a pleb, I'm a pleb. We got this one little thing we can do, which is put an X in a box, or abstain, or, you know, like they're doing in France, as we're about to get to, maybe burn down some shit. Not advocating for that, of course, but ostensibly in a democracy, in a peace-loving democracy, that's your ticket. That's what you get to do. That's your power. And you go, well, MSNBC tells me the orange man is Hitler, so I must vote blue. I just have to hope that they will do what they say they're going to. They never will do what they say they're going to do. Why would they? They've got you. They own you. They don't need to keep a promise to you. So how's your fucking student loan relief today, dickhead? Right, good. Now, wake the fuck up and either get behind a third party or just stop voting. Because the only way a politician will learn to keep their promises is when they lose the power they crave. And they spend 4 years, because this is how it works now in America. New rules, remember. They spend 4 years in front of House committees being investigated and having the other party comb over all of their shit. So only way they'll ever think, perhaps I should do something for the electorate I serve. You know, you ever think about that? No, you don't. Of course you don't. AOC, Amogus, So, of course, Macron is no different because politicians are all the same. There's one politician with many faces, basically. That's all you ever need to know about life. You know, it's weird because the ones that have an occasional flash of independence, they die, generally in weird circumstances. Weird that. You know, Labour died in Britain with John Smith. Rest his tubby little soul. So anyway, Macron, another cardboard cutout cunt, put in power. And remember, you had to vote for Macron because Obama said so. And to be fair, I wouldn't advocate for Le Pen. But what you got to remember, you see, most European countries are not like... They're not like America. You see, America has a monoparty, right? You've heard that term before. But in France and a lot of European countries, any party that gets the nominal amount of votes, they can be in power, right? And you can see here, this is the 27th French presidential election, where if you believe the media coverage, you would believe it was between the Saint Emmanuel Macron, a man who believed in a glorious future for France and, you know, the European ideal and all of it, or Le Pen, who basically, like, Hitler and Mussolini wanked onto an embryo and it's like my two dads but evil, right? That's the good. And by the way, she is a cunt, so I'm not saying different, right? But here was the thing. You had all these other candidates. Like, you could have got behind any of these. I mean, they're all lunatics, probably. But it didn't have to be these two. But it was these two, wasn't it? There was one guy who said, yeah, this guy, look at this guy. Get behind this guy. He's 75. He's in almost every election. What policies do you stand for? It's the Solidarity and Progress Party. I'm in already, right? Sounds good. What's this? What do you want to do? He supports colonizing the moon to facilitate exploration of Mars. That's his big policy. All right, fuck it then. Fuck it, sign me up. Sign me up. Sign me up for Moon Man over fucking Le Pen and Macron. Why don't you do it, guys? Why will you never do it? It's ridiculous. So anyway, right? This isn't the point of the video. All of this is just some, like, I don't know, just catharsis, just vomiting. Like, just an emetic to get it out. But anyway, Macron gets in 2017. I remember when Macron won, there was, like, this palpable, like, you know, oh, thank God, you know, we didn't fall into fascism, and it would have been awful if Le Pen had won. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Let's see what happens, you know. He looks good in a suit. I have a soft spot for Obama because I'm a pleb deep down in my heart of hearts. And anyway, I remember it wasn't long after he was in charge. He said, quite possibly, some of the most racist things I've ever seen a mainstream leader say. It wasn't like, on the far right. It was this. It was covered in Politico, right? And I brought this up at the time. Again, people said, no, Richard, no. They're misquoting him. Angry reaction to Emmanuel Macron's remark that Africa has a civilizational problem. And what he said was that the challenge for Africa is that it has a civilizational problem. And then when asked to elaborate further on it, because people were trying to sort of lay the foundations for him to say the civilizational problem in Africa, by the way, is what we did to it, what the colonizers did to it. That's the civilizational problem in Africa. We essentially... We found a way in the post-colonial world, when we withdrew, we still found a way to make these nations beholden to us via enslaving them through debt or very dubious contracts, or we acted as military protectors from border aggressors and things like this. So what they wanted Macron to say was just say it was particularly France. France's history in Africa is appalling. It's appalling. The reason you've got some of these riots today is because of that history, right? But no, he didn't say that. And then when he said, well, can you elaborate on what you mean by civilizational problem? He said it's women having 7 or 8 children in Africa. Stop me if you've heard a bigot in your life before say, well, the problem with Africa is they have too many kids. Have you ever heard a fat gammon racist say that to you? You ever heard that one? I have. You try and communicate with the gammon, and you say to the gammon, you go, yeah, but it's more complicated than that. Remember one of the Catholic Church said, and in these highly Catholic countries, you don't use condoms. And they're directly responsible, not just for the proliferation, these population growths that we've had, but also, as a direct result, AIDS. The AIDS crisis. Catholic Church could have just stopped that almost at any time by going, guys, these condoms, it's actually all right. It's all right. It's fine. The Bible doesn't care. So... that's just one of the many... But you can't explain this to a gammon. And Macron said the gammon-y thing within months of being in power. And I'm just like... I remember I probably even tweeted it, because I used to tweet back then. I think I tweeted, I bet you're glad you didn't elect a racist fascist. And again, everyone, oh no, Macron is one of the good ones. Oh my God, grow the fuck up. He's a liar and a piece of shit. I want to point out something else that Macron did. You probably noticed that while Macron... Right, let me just show you. There's a great page. One of my personal favourites to just check in with from time to time. Right? List of incidents of civil unrest in France. Which, it should be like this. It's like the Necronomicon. It's like just this fucking huge, weighty tome. Let's just have a look, right? You go all the way through. What happened around this time? Let's just ignore that, right? And we go here to the 21st century. Yeah, there was some 2005. We remember them. And then there was the youth protests. And we remember them. And then we remember there was the Bastille Day riots, wasn't there, in 2009. But, just look, loads of people are going, I can't believe it. Paris is on fire. Look at these protests. Has Paris not been on fire since Macron got in? Did I miss something? It's been non-stop fucking protests and riots since this cunt got in. At one point, he had something didn't he have a 12% or an 18% approval rating? Let's just go over some of the stuff that's been going on. In 2017, the first of these police protests started because a police officer did something very unsavory with a baton to someone who was in custody. And those protests lasted for months. Because obviously they would. Then you had obviously the Yellow Vest movement, which never stopped. And you will notice, wasn't reported a lot by the mainstream media, was it? Wait, so there's a movement in a mainstream European country who are constantly protesting over wealth disparity. Now, what's interesting as well is during the Yellow Vest movement, you saw videos circulating on social media, elderly women being beaten by police with truncheons. There were so many people, I mean, I'm talking dozens of people who went to the protests who were uploading pictures of themselves, and they're all missing an eye. And you know why they were missing an eye? The police were being instructed to target them in the head with tear gas to help disperse the crowd. That Yellow Vest movement is still going on, and barely talked about in the US. The average US, even the people that know about European politics won't have heard of the Yellow Vest movement. The UK, a lot of ignorance about the Yellow Vest movement. But isn't it interesting that all the culture war bullshit, we push that front and foremost. The actual issue, the class war, the problem of wealth disparity, which continues to grow, huge amounts of growth in wealth disparity during the pandemic. It's weird. We don't want to talk about that. I couldn't tell you who's running the Yellow Vest movement, what their demands are, what incidents sparked it, why it's being maintained, blah, blah, blah. Nah, none of that. We're shelving that. We don't want people to get any Arab Spring ideas going into their head, right? Then you had, there was a prison attack. Then, obviously, we had the 3 Kurds killed in a racist shooting, creating a lot of tension. Again, that's spilling over in the modern-day riots. Then, Macron came out and said, guess what? The whole Ponzi scheme of the state pension, you now got to work an extra 2 years before you get yours, no exceptions. And so the French were like, hang on, haven't you noticed that we've been protesting against wealth disparity and how the ruling class and the elite keep making us work more and more and more without us ever getting to take anything out of the system that we're propping up with our labour and our financial contributions? And then you've just announced this, Macron. Macron went, yeah, I have. What are you going to do about it? So we had some protests about it. We had some riots about it. And now, these ones that are going on right now, a teenager was shot and killed by police while a stop was being effected. A 17-year-old immigrant, I believe. So, obviously, there's a lot of analogy between what happened with the George Floyd protests and what's happening in France now. So Macron has presided over all of that. Also, he said, was he not an immigrant? I thought he was an Algerian immigrant. Did I get that wrong? Or his parents were immigrants. Is that not accurate? But okay, I apologise if that detail isn't accurate. My bad. And obviously, again, that history of France and Algeria in particular, you can't get away from these things. The other thing Macron presided over, police reform. He said he was going to reform the police, right? And everyone was like, well, fucking hell, about time. We've been protesting since 2017 over these police reforms that have been required. And so he put forward an 11-point plan to reform the police. And you're going to go, oh, Richard, now how can you hate Macron if he's reforming the police? And look, I agree with some of the reforms he's put in place. It blows my mind, by the way, in any civilized country in the world, police not having body cams, or like in America, police unions being able to refuse that the police officers can turn down wearing body cams under threat of strike action. This is ridiculous. If you're a police officer, you should be wearing a fucking body cam as a matter of, protection for you as an officer and for the people that you police. It's given. You should be doing that. If you work in a fucking nightclub, you're wearing a body cam these days. If you want to work as a doorman, there's all sorts of liability issues. Should absolutely be a mandatory measure that everyone has to fucking have. But no. So anyway, that was one of the reforms he wanted to bring in. But he also brought in a lot of stuff that essentially reduces France to a glorified police state. These are his 11 reforms that he proposed. He wanted boots on the ground police officers on streets to double in numbers. And this is an interesting thing because if you were to talk to people who live in, bad neighborhoods, one of the things they would say is, we want more community policing. We want more police visible, to try and deter potential criminals, right? But generally, when you say nominally, I want to we're going to double the number of police on the streets, what type of politician says that? It's not left-wing politicians. It's not socialist politicians. It's generally a right-wing policy to get more police boots on the ground, the jackboot of authority in your neighborhood, right? And so that's not good. What we need is, we might need more police overall. You don't need more beat police roaming around fucking neighborhoods, swinging truncheons, bored out of their mind, looking for things to do. That's a powder keg. But that's what he wants to do. He said, goal set, 1 body camera per police officer. Fine, just talked about that, but gonna agree with that. Victim complaints and a website for victims of crime to file complaints. Fair enough. No problem with that database. Then, an increase in police powers to give fines. And the president said he planned to increase the police and I can never say that because it's French, but gendarmerie ability to give flat rate fines, a form of sanction that can be given with no trial if the officers see certain types of illegal activity taking place. Now, this is a nightmare because when the police are given the right to issue spot fines without any need to go through a court, without any need, right? It's like, they use it to generate revenue. It's like how police officers in neighborhoods that have like high traffic offenses, they'll sit in cars and they'll wait for somebody to do like a minor violation and they pull them over and they issue the ticket. It's a way that you generate money. There's actually performance tables on how many fines that you issue and how much money it brings in to the state. That's the last thing you need. Also, it jams up the courts with appeals. It's not effective policing. You don't want to do that. Criminal proceedings to be simplified. Again, sounds good, but who's it for? Oh, it's to free up police time. So in other words, a drastic simplification of the framework for inquiries, the extension of verbal summary statements for small crimes, and the use of new methods for detectives, allowing them to avoid referrals for long interviews, which can be filmed. So in other words, the evidentiary standard gets reduced overall in Macron's police force. Police training to be extended, whatever that means. Reserve police force to be created. So now they want to create 30,000 officers, reserve officers, to go in times of extreme difficulty or under-policing, potentially used as scabs if there's any like strike action or anything like that. So 30,000 officers that aren't really officers, but with temporary authority to act like officers in times of crisis, i.e. now. This is when you'd be sending in the pleb force, the mall cops. Well, that won't escalate the situation at all, will it, right? Just brutes with batons and shields. Wants to increase the budget for policing without precedent, to put 1.5 billion euros into it. To add, and this as well, a long-term plan for internal security. So in other words, by 2030, they want to have an internal security state, particularly for the purposes of dealing with terrorism. Obviously, we know what that means in Europe. But the problem with that is, in a world where the definition of terrorist is so fleeting and nebulous, I can't see that being abused. Of course it will be. So while Macron's hurtling towards police reform reads a lot to me like turning France into some sort of overly policed state, we've obviously had these riots emerge. And all of that's just a preamble. That's got nothing to do with what we'll talk about. What we're going to talk about is actually quite frivolous and light-hearted. But I fucking hate Macron. I absolutely hate him. He is a fake. He's a fake. He doesn't love France at all. Doesn't give a shit. Doesn't care about anything except maintaining power. He is everything that you see wrong with the modern politician. And so, what a surprise. So on September 11th, 2022, Macron announced that there was going to be a French CSGO major. He did it in person. There was a video for it. And everyone was like, wow, this is great. Isn't it so good that we're going to have a CSGO major? In fact, Macron had committed. He said, look, I want to have all of these things. He said, I want to have the League of Legends Worlds and CSGO majors. If re-elected, I will fight for those things. Interesting. This is in April 2022. In an interview with The Big Whale, a French cryptocurrency and Web3 newsletter, he was even pandering to the cryptards, guys. How fucking desperate he is. Macron explained how esports and gaming were an important component of French soft cultural power that he vowed to uphold if re-elected. He also cited Carmine Corp and Team Vitality of two pillars of French excellence in the esports sector. As the esports industry continues to grow, we are seeing more and more collaboration between esports and the wider sectors of entertainment, sports, and politics. He wants to make France the country for video games. So keep that in mind. He wants to have all the big esports events, right? He wants to make France the country for esports and gaming, even pandering to Web3. He hosted a big party, right? Dickheads like Nell went there, fresh off endangering the lives of Russian CS players. There it is. There's the tweet, right? Many people from the French esports ecosystem are invited for a reception with Emmanuel Macron in honour of French esports. So, yep, I'm going. Paris CSGO Major 2024 will be on the menu. No worries. Eyes emoji. Right, here it is. Macron met with esports personalities including Seb, Vitality, CEO, and G2. Confirmed plans for major events in France. There you go, look at this. It's Seb. Remember Seb? Remember when your Sebs got bigger? When you bought battle passes? Remember that? There he is. Seb doing all the selfies, right? Macron. G2 Esports gifting him a shirt. Here you go, Macron. Now, oh yeah, it's definitely a publicity stunt, but also a great recognition of esports and video games as an ally of sport and culture. I understand the criticism, but you can't spit in the soup when you've never had anything before, right? There's Macron there. Here's all of the esports world. Yeah, just like me, for real. Shaking hands, jokes about heroes in the game, giving a speech. We want to see us go. Look at all this. Look at this. Look at the pathetic. Look at the fawning over a politician. If he stuck his hand out, I'd just stare at it like, what? I'm not sure. Why would I shake a politician's hand? What the fuck are you talking about? Mental, right? So, you can see how much he loves gaming and how much he loves esports and how much the French world loves Macron. What a cool guy. Well, anyway, we've got more riots going on over the killing of a 17-year-old. The police killed him. There was no need for it to happen. And Paris has been in protest ever since. And not just Paris, it's spread even to Switzerland. They started to ease off as of today. We've got anti-violence rallies now. People saying, look, let's talk about all of this stuff. But you go, okay, well, clearly the issue with this is the police. The French police have been out of control for a long time. And what we need to do is we need real police reform and not just the shit that, you're talking about. So Emmanuel Macron, he's a great politician. Everybody loves him. Great speaker. Lots of great ideas. Comes out, and after all that fawning and all that things he said, now he wants to make France, this hub for gaming. What do you think he blamed? Emmanuel Macron blames video games for the riots in France. Incredible. And I said these exact words. There'll be a video of it. Probably last time I ranted about Macron. I always get super fucking weirded out when politicians come into esports to fucking promote themselves, particularly around elections. And keep in mind, Macron is one of the most reviled French presidents. If his opposition wasn't someone as odious as Le Pen, Macron would be out. We'll talk about Macron in a bit. But anyway, these motherfuckers in their suits, taking the manila envelopes, these corrupt fucking entities that just ruin our planet and are a blight on human existence, just within a gaming context, You know, they fucking spend, 300 days out of a year saying gaming's bad, gaming's addictive, gaming corrupts the youth, gaming's not a worthwhile pursuit, gaming's unhealthy, gaming creates school shooters. They do all of this when they have to pander to the religious right or whoever or the newspapers and throw out cheap sound bites, and then, oh wait, I can have an event that might make young voters think I'm cool, so I'll just come out now and pretend I liked esports all along. He'll be cunting gaming off, just like they all do, as soon as this event's fucking finished. As soon as Paris has pocketed the cash, as soon as he's converted a bunch of people. Hey, look, Macron's in a Vitality hoodie. He is cool now. I will vote for him no matter what in every election because I'm susceptible to bullshit. There was about 10 threads about this. Oh, look at Macron. He's wearing a Vitality jersey. Oh my God, look, he's just like me, for real. Oh, president. There he is, shit-eating grin, right? He loves esports, he loves gaming, guys. When these were doing the rounds, I said it is a matter of time before he has to pander to the religious right or parents or he'll need a scapegoat. And gaming remains a good. Every politician has it here, right? You can you blame the internet, you can blame social media, you blame video games, you blame movies. You know, you blame a lack of God in schools. There is a playbook that you go through as a politician. Seems to me that the reason that the riot's happening in Paris is you've squeezed, and all over France, is you have squeezed the French people to absolute breaking point. And French people of all stripes. This has been framed by right-wing social media as immigrants are rioting. Absolutely not. There is a groundswell of frustration in general, which... Yes, it's the Yellow Vests movement, but prior to that, it's the pension protests. It is the fact the French people are sick. They are sick of a France that doesn't feel like it has the same civil liberty and joie de vivre to fucking exist in anymore because of you cunt, because of the politicians, because of the disappearing pensions, because of the increase in taxes, because it's too expensive to drive a car, because of the reduction in services, essential services, because of the state taking away things that were considered fundamental to the French way of life, to the police that can't even incarcerate a teenager without committing some sort of heinous atrocity against them. Could it be any of those things, Macron? Could it be any of those things? But absolutely no, it cannot be. And so he has gone to one of the easiest cards to play. It is video games, guys. It's video games. He literally said people were living out Grand Theft Auto in real life. And that's the problem. Oh, and social media. Macron said the teenager's death was inexplicable and inexcusable, but added that protests must be tempered in order for justice to prevail. The president also noted that a third of those arrested in the riots were young or very young. Yeah, it's a young man's game, civil disobedience. Because if you do it once you're locked in, you lose your job, you lose your home, you lose the right to a bank account. The system squeezes your balls. If you don't have any of those things, it's pretty easy to get up in the morning and say, fuck it, I'm going to put my scarf on and get down to the front lines. He attributed this to the use of social media in organising protests and suggested that video games are to blame for their actions. Violent video games incite a disconnect from reality, argued the French head of state, who claimed young protesters are acting out the video games that have poisoned their minds. Macron stated it was the responsibility of parents to keep protesters at home and requested social media sites remove sensitive content related to the riots. However, Macron's statement has been criticised by supporters of the rioters as detracting from the tragedy of the incident and minimising the human response to the loss of a young person. Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Speaking as someone who's a little bit older, I went through this. It was video nasties. Remember that? Remember the video nasties? Right? You remember that? How it was, people are more violent because of the films. Then it was the music. People are more violent because of the hip-hop music. That was actually what was causing gang crime in America in the early 90s. It was the gangster rap. They weren't rapping about a phenomenon that was occurring. It was them rapping that was perpetuating the phenomenon. So here's a parental advisory sticker, problem solved, God bless Tipper Gore. It's the same shit all of the time. It is a matter of time before this cunt comes out and says, actually, we need more God in schools, because if people followed Christianity, then this wouldn't be happening. He's that close. This is your boy walking around in a Vitality jersey, desperate to get fucking re-elected, saying he's going to make France a gaming hub, but simultaneously saying gamers are poisoning the minds of the youth. And then, just to top it off, right? It's just too perfect. Macron goes to Elton John gig as Paris burns in mass protests. This cunt actually was dancing at an Elton John concert, like on day 2 of the riots. Now, I seem to remember there was a cunt in Rome that it fiddled while the city burned. Quite famous for that. Wasn't remembered too fondly. Incredibly, though, you will notice that the media has been very, I would say, reserved in the direct criticism of Macron. It's staggering to me, actually. You remember there's other instances, like in America, Ted Cruz goes on a pre-booked holiday while the Texas power grid goes down in a freak blizzard. The fact that he wasn't initially going to return was considered, impeach him. Can we do that? Impeachment? Is that a thing? Can we get rid? It was like, yeah, but all right, well, Macron's just boogieing to Elton John's fucking 8th farewell tour. just it's time, Elton. It really is. You can't even sing anymore, bro. And everyone's fine with it. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, Macron, the perfect politician for esports in many ways. Just an absolute disingenuous fake cunt. But let's all worship him, yeah, because it's the can I sniff the hem of power? Esports grifters, like, imagine being like that. Just imagine.